You will find this in almost any self-help situation. Write your manifestation for your life down in all areas of your life. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally. Write down the most magnificent version of your life.
Welcome to Shaping Freedom with Lisane Basquiat, the podcast where we help you unlock your potential and redefine what it means to be free. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat. I'm a former corporate executive, a life strategist, and the founder of Shaping Freedom. With a background spanning corporate, artistic, and personal development, I bring a unique perspective to empowering others. Listen in to discover inspiring stories and practical insights that will help you reclaim your life and rewrite your narrative. My intention is for you to gain the tools and motivation to be free in your relationships, your communities, and within yourself. This, my friends, is Shaping Freedom. Hi, friends. Today I'm speaking with Robert Young about the delicate balance between purpose, passion, and self-care. What I'm really excited about is that this interview is actually the debut of him talking about this film that he's making about his longtime friend and his kindred spirit, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Lennox Lewis. It's a really interesting film that he's creating, and I think you'll get a lot out of the process that he shares with us. We also dive into the energy of creation, what it takes to exist in creative energy, and what that then requires of you from a self-care and self-consideration perspective. We talk a lot about how to keep centered in the midst of chaos, how to remember who you are, how to stay grounded, and some tips and tools that you can use that will help you to swing the pendulum to a place where you are taking care of yourself so that you can show up in the world the way that you'd like to. And he also lastly gives some advice to other creatives to help them to incorporate self-care into what it is that they're creating for the world. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Robert. Welcome to the Shaping Freedom with Lisane Basquiat podcast. I am very excited to be having this next interview, having this next conversation with this lovely gentleman who is a filmmaker and a podcast producer and a storyteller and someone who is really diving into the juxtaposition of creativity and wellness and how important those two things are. And I was on his podcast some months ago, and we agreed at that time that you would come to mine. And so here we are. And I'd love to introduce the audience to Robert Young and of the Bright and Shining podcast and of R7 Holdings. And so welcome, Robert. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out to West Hollywood to the studio to sit down and have this chat with me. It's so good to see your smiling face.
We're doing so much of it digitally, and yet we felt connected even in our episode together on Bright Fame Shining that when it came full circle to be here and they said it would be in person, no brainer.
I know. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I know that, you're really busy and taking the time to actually travel here. I do appreciate it because I know in these LA streets, traffic can make a 5-mile drive, a very long morning. So tell us about your world. What's going on in your world right now, Robert?
Currently, it's an interesting point to be at. I think as we journey this wonderful thing called life, we're always looking for a place to say we've arrived. And I think that the harder we work in alignment with being creators, in alignment with our relationship with the Most High, you don't ever feel like you're ever there. It's always something, you arrive at one plateau and you're already looking at the next, But I think finally have landed in a place that makes me feel like I'm standing on that mountaintop, looking at the options before me, and very excited to come to terms with what I was destined to do. You know, we do many things in life. You may be lucky to do a few things well, but generally there's only maybe one of those things that are your purpose, your life's purpose. And I think I finally, I won't say happenstance, but purposefully driven myself to be in that place. It's an exciting time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What is your purpose?
You know, my purpose and my passion are at odds, have been at odds for many, many years. My passion is to sit on the beach somewhere in the Caribbean, doing nothing.
Yes. I like that.
You know, connected to the ocean, watching regular sunsets. But what I quickly learned is that my purpose is to be of service. And you cannot do that in isolation on the beach, looking at sunsets in the ocean, because in that case, God is being of purpose to me. But I'm not able to translate that purpose to someone else in my in my isolation. So that dance between the two has been probably the motor, the engine that's been driving my life and my career. And so yeah, that purpose to be in service, it's a gift and a curse, as you well know.
I do.
Because it is taxing. And I believe in this sense of karma that you aren't recharged. You don't get back from the universe in a karma perspective that which you give unto people that you know. So people that are familiar in your life, friends, family, you give unto them, give unto them, give unto them. It has to come back from them in order for you to be recharged. So sometimes when you're in these circumstances of wellness, you build a rapport with people, clients, friends, business partners, and they're in your life regularly, and you're pouring into them regularly. And in their attempt to get the reins in control for themselves and get on their feet, they may not have it to give back to you.
Right.
So you feel like not doing it sometimes, just so you can catch your own breath.
Right.
And then you find yourself on a phone call with someone else that's called you out the blue saying this is what they're going through, and you can't help yourself but to be in service again. So it's a gift and a curse in a way, where in that case, ignorance is bliss. But I think those things, when they rub you and keep stressing, and I think what they're doing is expanding you.
Right.
And so I kind of finally come to the terms with accepting that that's part of the expansion, and that'll probably be my life. This dance between purpose and passion, probably the rest of my life.
Wow. Wow. I love, we're going to get to the projects that you're working on in a moment, but one of the things that I wanted to make sure I don't forget to mention to you is the model that you are for getting back to this idea of like creative and wellness, the model that you are for expending energy, creating something, and talking specifically about this Undisputed event that you put on a few weeks ago. And one of the things that I remarked about both to myself and also mentioned to my team was how you exerted all this energy to create this event. You did all the hard work, you did it, right? And then you said, we did it, it was great. I'm going to be off the grid for a couple of days while I go and recharge and fill myself back up. And then I proceeded to see your toes in the sand on Instagram. And I thought, yeah, he actually did that. Yeah. And I love that you're first of all living and modeling what it is that you're talking about in practice. And I also appreciated for myself, it was a lesson for myself about giving yourself a moment in between the big things so that you can recuperate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You can run out of gas, not because of the lack of availability of gas stations, but because you're not paying attention to taking care of your car.
Yeah.
You're too busy worried about where you have to be next. But you can't go where you're going next without gas in the tank.
That's right.
And that idea in life that everything is right now, must be right now. I must do everything right now. I'm on call right now. Everything matters right now. Everyone needs a break.
Yes.
You need a chance to switch off and check in. And I had realized that I pride myself in making a promise and getting things done. And I'd realized that leading up to the event, I had some other clients that I had projects for that I had kept pushing back when I would deliver for them. Mm-hmm. And that's something that is not normal for me at all. So when the event was over, I knew in order for me to do what I need to do for them at the quality that they deserve, mm-hmm. I had to take time for myself.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is knowing that, as you well know and can speak to, the energy of the ocean, mm-hmm. It is a place where on the beach you can be at one with all of the elements, right?
Absolutely.
There's wind, there's earth, there's water, there's fire.
Air, yeah.
Be it the sun.
Yes.
And if you smoke cigars, you might see the air as well. But it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. And as close as I live to the beach, I've not been going a lot lately because mm-hmm. I've been so busy. So those toes in the sand, they were necessary. I had no other choice but to go and sit down. And it's certainly made a world of difference since.
Yeah. You know, one of the things about this podcast that's very important is that we talk about these things that we're up to and what we're doing, but that we also share ways of being and thoughts and perspectives that are of help and value to those who are listening. Yeah. And so I just want to add that for those folks who will say, well, I don't live near the ocean, you know, for those folks in Brooklyn who are saying, I don't live near the ocean, must be nice. There is nature everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, find a park, find a lake, find some way that helps you to connect to and acknowledge your connection to the earth that supports us, you know, in some way. And so
Brooklyn got some of the most amazing trees.
Exactly. And they're very different. They speak different.
Yeah, they speak different, those trees. The history they've seen and things they've experienced.
That's right.
Are remarkable, but some of the most incredible parks.
Yeah, Prospect Parks, and there's waterways through those mm-hmm. parks, and so the access. New York has done a great job in ensuring that there is access despite the overlap of the civilian population, as it were. So not even New Yorkers have an excuse. God is unstoppable. Exactly, and we're picking New York first of all because that's where I'm from. And second of all, because it is a city, it's as city as a city gets, you know? So it's really important to make that connection. Let's talk about Undisputed. Let's talk about this project.
Yeah. So Undisputed was an event that I was, you know, every now and again I put on an event. And it's every few years I put on some event tied to some project that I'm working on. The last one I did was in Washington, D.C., to celebrate all of the activations we'd done in DC during the pandemic. And it was a really special scenario because I think we'd already booked it, we were already doing it, and then 2 days before we were about to do it, they had lifted the indoor mask mandate. The mayor had lifted the indoor mask mandate, so people were dressed up in suits and all the rest, and it was their first real outing, mm-hmm. you know, and brought in a Caribbean chef, and I should say Jamaican because Jamaican restaurants only say Jamaican. If you see Caribbean, it's not Jamaican food, FYI. But
another gem.
Brought in a Jamaican chef, reggae DJ, a whole energy to bring the culture right into the heart of DC. And so with the advent of this new project, with the retired undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis, to create a fictional feature film based on stories of his incredible life, I wanted to give back before asking for anything. So by fate, co-worker in my office that I'd helped do in a inspirational interior redesign of their offices so that their staff could feel more at home in their mm-hmm. office rather than just staring at a wall. Mm-hmm. And we did that, and it turns out I have this beautiful airplane chair, and the guy said, hey, I know you got to talk to Tamar. I'm like, okay. Jerome said, talk to Tamar. Tamar's husband is a partner in a cigar lounge in Studio City. It's members only, this, that, and the other. They have chairs like yours. I said, get out of here. So I went up there to see him, And a 7,000 square foot, 2-floor opulent place called the Cigar Library. And it's absolutely brilliant. It was, one of the owners was his retirement plan gift to himself to build a space we could sit down and enjoy his vice, cigars. And we got to talking. We became the best of friends. And I was like, I have an idea. I said, what's that? I said, I have an idea for a win-win-win. Let's do an event that would bring out a good high class of cigar lovers and people who are new to cigars to your space while we celebrate the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world and him turning over the belt to the next undisputed heavyweight champion for the first time in 25 years. And they were like, absolutely, let's do it. So Len was in Vegas for Cinco de Mayo, and I insisted he come to LA, and he came and he met with the folks there and came down to my office and connected all the dots. I then reached out to you and I said, hey, you know, the following day I'm going to release our episode together, an anniversary of your brother's $110.5 million sale. To this date remains the highest selling artwork made on American soil. Untitled 1982. Anyways, I know all these things, they're in my head dancing around. That's why I take time out to the beach. But that being said, I just wanted to do an event to give back. So I was able to celebrate Lennox while we're watching him on television in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. The room is there to celebrate him and what he'd done. I'd gifted the owners of the space 2 gloves that Lennox signed in their space, or the photo that we took there, which, by the way, I have that very photo that Lennox and I signed, one for you.
I would love that. Thank
poster. You. And yeah, so we just, I just wanted to do something where I could give back first. And so that event was to celebrate people, give them access to some wonderful different stylish and experimental liqueurs and things of that nature, but also had the great opportunity to talk about you, talk about the podcast coming out the next day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk about Shaping Freedom. Your team was kind enough to bring a couple of the books from the King Pleasure show. And so we did a question where we asked the folks, what was the price that the original 1982 sold for? And they're like, we don't know. I said, use your phone. And they tried to Google it.
There's a cheat sheet.
Eventually somebody was close. So I said 19,000. They're like, no way. And that gentleman was so happy to have that book.
Oh, good. Thank you. We haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, it was so great.
Yeah, good.
It was so great.
I'm happy to hear that.
And yeah, so I think my goal really simply with Undisputed, that event, was to give back. The reason Undisputed exists is because I'm working on, quote unquote, The Last Champion, which is a fictional feature film based on the life of Lennox Lewis, and taking a particular period of his life that is tied to love. The Last Champion is TLC. And while people feel that a film about boxing is generally about boxing and also the great thing about falling down and getting back up, this is actually really a love story. It's an incredible love story of the relationship that Lennox had with boxing, the relationship that he had with his mother, who recently passed away in December. After what an incredible job she did, the sacrifices she made to give her children a better life, and particularly Lennox, and give him the opportunity to become the man that he became. Moved from Jamaica to England to Canada, really made hard sacrifices for her children, and cooked all of Lennox's meals at all of his camps.
Oh, okay.
And then at one of Lennox's most devastating losses, between that loss and his reigniting defeat of the same gentleman, he had met the woman who would become his wife. So there's such great stories of who actually she's a Miss Jamaica winner, and actually shares the name of his mother, Violet. So there's so many beautiful accents to the story in terms of love, and it's given me so much joy to work on it, because him and I are separated by about 5 days, Virgos. Kindred spirits in that regard. I consider him a brother, and to be able to work on film is one thing. To be able to work on a project that's going to celebrate a friend, it's like magic.
It's something different. Yeah.
Something different entirely.
And there are aspects of his story that you will pick up and connect to that could not happen with someone who wasn't as connected and bonded to him. So
yeah, yeah. So funny. I was reading this wonderful article, and they're like, and the first time I saw a boxing match, it was Lennox Lewis versus Tyson. That was so late.
I know, it's way so much down the road in boxing history. That. Yes, for sure.
And so I feel privileged to have known a man that I will tell this one story because I think you'll appreciate it because you understand the psyche of human beings and how we deal with our losses and our tragedies. We're in South Africa, and Lennox has come in a bit late because he was filming Ocean's 11 and has arrived to the high altitude very late. I would say it cost him the match. And he gets knocked out. But when we watch sports, we forget, especially combat sports, that people are having a violent experience. These violent experiences in a normal world setting would cause PTSD. They would cause great difficulty in order to move forward. You get knocked out in a fight with someone. There's a lot to deal with. There's a lot
there to unpack. Absolutely.
And so here's a man that's doing it, but it happened to him on a stage in front of the world, with thousands of people in a stadium. And the entourage of 50 to 100 people went away. We're at a mom and pop restaurant in South Africa, and we're sitting at the restaurant, dark. And I say to Len, "How you feeling, champ?" And he looked at me, the son I'll never forget, and he said, "He's never seen a boxer like me. The belts are on loan. I'll get my belts back." And I'm looking at him. This is a man who has lost once before in his career. And even though he came back to win and that fight again, he was almost phased out for almost 3 years to get back to that WBC belt the first time it happened. Here he is at the end of his career, waiting for a deal to be closed with Tyson to have his legacy fight before he retires, takes on this competitor just because he doesn't duck any fights and he's got to continue to take the mandated fights for him, and loses at this tail end, this part of his life, his career, knowing all that is possible, that he doesn't have 3 years to burn again, and still was punched in his face and knocked out, has the wherewithal to say those words. Even if he's lying, it's a miracle.
Right.
And my respect for him, which was already grand, skyrocketed at that point. He went from being just a friend to someone that is an inspiration. And so that and so many other incredible stories kind of make up my drive for doing this. It's why I'm working so hard to close out all of my other clients. By hook or by crook, this is it.
Well, I believe if there's anyone who's going to make this one happen, I think he's sitting in front of me.
Thank you.
Tell me, who is Robert Young?
A conflicted spirit who believes that life is a downward escalator.
A downward escalator. Tell me about that.
That life is not set up for us to do anything when we're born other than decay. And the only thing that stops that decay or puts purpose to that time is action. And like a downward escalator, that action is forever until the day that you're
done.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't make that effort, and if you don't recognize the absolutely detrimental side to not taking action in your life, it could be a very miserable place. You have to know that the effort that is made, you've got to let go of the idea that I only need to do this much. And okay, I've done enough. So that's fine. I've done everything. So now I'm fine. Everything's fine. No, everything runs out, even money, right? Energy, everything runs out. So you have to take action, take breaks, replenish, recharge, but know that your life from the time you're born, that gift is a gift. And in order to repay that gift, you must constantly have not only purpose, but take action towards it.
Absolutely.
Without it, life is detrimental. I won't mince any words where that's concerned. It's deathly detrimental if you stop, if you pause, if you give up. It is not to your benefit. As much as in that time, curling up in your sheets feels better. That's cool. Take that break. Treat it like a recharge, but don't let it be the result of you being overwhelmed by life. The only fix for being stuck is movement. The only fix.
And what does a detrimental life look like?
Never being outside of your own head and always being outside of your own head. I think there's importance about balance, the yin and the yang, the idea of knowing that it's okay if you don't feel great, but it's not okay if you don't do something about it. And so that dance of getting in touch with yourself and then seeing how is that reflected in your outside world, it's a constant dance. I think it's an important dance. I do know how it's confusing, but I don't want it to be confusing for anyone if they think about this. Life is birth to the great, 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 great amount of pain that a woman must endure. Bring life into the world. It starts like that. Recognize it, connect to it, ask yourself why, and then say, but here is the helper, and here is the husband, and here is the other family members, and here is the caretaking situation, so that you know that you have to have this community around what could be a difficult manner of birthing life. A project, a painting, what you're doing with Shaping Freedom, these things cost something, but with a proper community around you, surrounding yourself with great people, taking steps, like how we met. You know, I saw that wonderful event at Ray's place, and I'm like, I'm going. I didn't even know you were going to be there. I did not know at that point
what it was. This is at Ray Studios.
Yeah, Ray Studios had that lovely event showing the films, your brother's favorite films. And had I not taken steps, and I went by myself to go and reserve a spot and park my car in the neighborhood street nearby and navigate the fact that they weren't letting people in. Like, look, buddy, I'm going inside. Let's figure this out.
I'm showing up,
And because there were so many people came out to support the event. It was a packed event. And then here we are now. So, you know, could that have happened had I stood on my, well, I don't know anybody. I don't know anyone there. I don't really want to go by myself. You know, you have to step out of your comfort zone over and over and over again. And then there's these wonderful rewards. Wonderful rewards.
Yeah.
I have to say this, when I came in and I saw you, I was so happy to see you. And it meant so much because you're just doing great things, you know, you're just nonstop with it. And I say to you, like I said that day, you know, I honor you with the idea that I pray that you always, always remember to take that time for yourself, you know.
It's a battle, but I do. I'm making room. Sometimes I have to really work hard at it, but it's a battle for sure. Do you know that we have a line of Shaping Freedom wellness products? Each are beautifully crafted and designed to support you in cherishing your mind, body, emotions, and soul. Carve out a sanctuary in your life with our Luxe sustainable yoga and meditation mats, essential oil candles, and more. Embrace self-care and reflection with every item, lovingly created to enhance your daily practice of spending time on you. Elevate your wellness journey with Shaping Sanctuary Collection, because you deserve to feel balanced, nurtured, and inspired. Visit shapingsanctuary.com for more information. You know, you talked about creative energy, or you were kind of talking about childbirth, that you don't know how it feels. Think about how it feels, and it's 1,000 times harder. I just want to tell you that. But the energy of creation is the same energy, as you said, that brings a child into the world. And it's that same energy that we use when we are creating something. And it's very different from the energy of like transformation or maintenance, where it's like, I figured the thing out. Now it's kind of going on its own. It's operationalized, whether it be your life or a project, or once the movie's done, or whatever the thing is, or when you're raising a child, you know. And then there's that energy of completion. And you have to complete things to make room to be able to create something new. And it's clear from the work that you do that you spend a lot of your time and energy in that energy of creativity and creation, which is so much more laborious than the others. How do you, first of all, what brought you to want to be in that energy? What was it that kind of tapped on your door to say, hey, let's talk about what your purpose is and how you're going to express it?
I grew up so my mother and my father are Jamaican. My mom is half Chinese. They emigrated from Jamaica to Canada. Under British rule, it's pretty easy in their day to become a citizen. They walked into a room after being there for a while in Canada, and they said, "Do you want to be Canadian?" They said yes. They stamped them, and they were Canadian.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of how it happens.
And they had met there. And the thing that was interesting is that I grew up in this wonderful little house at the side of the hill, played Premier League soccer, went to an awesome school. In grade 3, my father was driving and his lung collapsed. And he went into the hospital, he checked himself out. A couple of weeks or a month ago later, he's driving, his other lung collapsed. He checked himself out of the hospital again, but this time they had to took a while, but they had to do a brutal surgery and cut him wide open and reset the lung and all this chaos. And we ended up moving to this neighborhood called Jane and Finch in Toronto, which is essentially like Compton in LA or Southeast in DC or Overtown in Miami. And it was a rough neighborhood. And didn't notice it as a kid. It was just seemed normal, right? Just was what it was. But I remember some of the experiences I had. A guy trying to steal my pager with a ratchet knife. And I was like, what's going on here, right? And this thing happens where...
And how old are you?
I'm like grade 3, grade 4.
Okay.
When I got there. And
so
I
you're a baby. You're like 9.
Child.
Okay.
I'm a child. Guys asking me to do crazy stuff when I go to the store to get something for my mom. Is asking, hey, man, come here, let me talk to you. No.
Mm-hmm.
And so this battle of keeping your stuff centered and all the rest in the midst of what is other chaos. But all of my friends were creative. I went to high school with a female rapper named Michie Me, who was a Jamaican rapper who a lot of the American rappers that were coming out with any Jamaican slang had got it from Michie Me.
And, oh, wow.
There was a crew called the Dream Warriors, which is these young MCs that were rapping over jazz tracks, which is how Guru eventually used to open for them on tour and how Guru ended up doing Jazzmatazz, that whole album and all influenced by them. So I was around really seriously powerful influencers in music and entertainment growing up. And I had an opportunity to tour the UK and Europe, and that was it. Once I stepped out of that, multi-block radius of the Jane and Finch corridor, as it's called, my life exploded in my mind when I stood on the stage of Top of the Pops and I was dancing on the same stage Bob Marley had performed.
Oh, wow.
In London, and seeing the Eiffel Tower through the little window in my hotel room, and things of that nature. The world changed me. Travel changed everything for me. And my route at that time was travel came to me through being a creative, through dancing, through rapping, and eventually through poetry. And I stood on a stage in Italy and I read a poem called You Think I Don't Know. In Canadian, it's radical noise, black music, illegal sales district, black market, stock market crash, Black Monday. The bad guys wear black, evil mistress, black widow, followed by evil black shadow. When disease wipes out millions of people, black plague, you think I don't know. Subconscious psychology reversed, you think I don't know, you think I don't know, you think I don't know that everything you fear is black. I am black and aware, so beware as I cross your path, for I am the one that brings bad luck. Black cat. And I walked off the stage and they're screaming and roaring.
How old are you now?
I'm like, by that time I'm maybe 20.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
And I talked to our handler and I said, he says, this is an Italian audience, right? He says, yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about?
Do they speak English? He said, no. I said, so what happened out there? He said, we can feel the truth.
Yeah.
And that, again, the arts have, almost want to get teary-eyed here, but honestly, the arts have saved my life more times than I can count. And I thought, well, if it's done that for me, if I have any skill in that space, can I use that to do it for others?
Wow.
And at the time, I didn't really recognize, I used to think that I did work with wellness in it. And then I realized that wellness is the work.
Wellness is the work. Absolutely. Wow. How did you wind up here in Los Angeles?
It's my fourth coming this time around.
Okay.
But when I was coming to the States, I came in on 01 Extraordinary Talent Visa. And I had an option when I was coming to live anywhere in the US. And I was going to move to New York and do a roommate thing with a young man I had mentored who was a up-and-coming music video director at the time. And that kind of fell through. And I was like, I'm not really a roommate kind of guy anyway. So I like a Virgo. Things have to be in a certain space. So it would annoy me if it wasn't that way. So I ended up moving to LA. And literally I drove through the neighborhood to come here today that I first moved to when I came to LA in 1999. Yeah, on Dunsmuir in the Mid-Wilshire district. Drove right through it to come here today. And I was sitting, I think you'll appreciate this. I'd gone on sabbatical for my birthday. I spent 9 months, 6 months a day training. And when I got back, I spent 4 months of it in Jamaica. And I was in DC for the pandemic. Pandemic was wrapping up, as it were. And I was looking at another winter in DC at 5 o'clock, dark. I love DC, but dark at 5.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous and miserable.
Yeah.
And I was
dark
like,
and cold.
And cold
good.
And cloudy.
Yeah.
I'm cool. I got to go. And I said, there's nothing in the universe that will make me come back to LA. I've left LA 3 times. Angry. And so I went on a mission, and I invite others to do this as well. If you're wondering what you should do with your life, reach out to 10 people you trust. Some of them can be people you've known all your life, and a handful of them could be people that you've recently met. I did exactly that. And I said, if someone asked you, who's Robert and what does he do, what would you say? So I asked these 10 random friends from all over the world, because I've had the pleasure of living, all over, from the Caribbean to Colombia. And they got back to me with answers. And then I cross-referenced their answers. And I took what were the top 2 answers as terms of who I was and what I did. And they were, you're a healer and a director, right? And, well, where's the best place to make film? I wrote a film when my father passed away and never made the film. I said, well, I don't want to be in my deathbed saying I never made this film. LA. Oh my God. Something else got to go aside. Let me see. Where's the best place for wellness? Progressive concepts of wellness are more impactful in California than almost anywhere.
Absolutely.
In the United States.
Absolutely.
So against all odds and my better judgment, I decided that I would come back to Los Angeles. And by some great miracle, as soon as I get here, talks of the strike.
Oh. So this is
November.
A recent fourth time around.
Fourth time around. I arrive in November, and they start talking about the strike in December.
Shoot.
It happens to be a real conversation in January. By February, it's a real thing. And everyone across every industry that I could focus my energy on to work with are all scrambling.
Right.
No one get a manager. What? A rep? You want an entertainment lawyer?
Yeah.
Everybody's just trying to figure out.
Now. We're trying to figure out how to survive.
Trying to figure out how we're going to survive.
We're not creating.
We're not creating.
Right.
We're not no one's in a flow state.
Right. Right.
Anywhere in the industry.
Right.
No one is a flow state. This is a follow-up to the pandemic we just recovered from. I'm like, this LA got me again. And I was so, with all I had done in my career, in my life at that point, I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I told myself after the sabbatical, I said, if things don't line up the way you need them to line up now, I'm done.
Okay.
With creativity.
With creativity, not just LA.
Just LA, creativity, all of it.
Well, so what would you do if you weren't a creator?
Sadly, I say I'm done, but it would probably be interior design, which is still creativity.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I know, are you going to be an accountant?
I tried. And
Did you?
Was not an accountant, but I tried at looking at what else would you do?
What'd you come up with?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah. Nothing that I could do anything, but nothing that I could do and live.
Okay.
Live in a purposeful way.
Mm-hmm.
Be in service of others. There's one singular place for that for me. That's creativity. I think when they say depending on what you believe religiously, made in the likeness of the creator, I think that means to create.
That's right.
And so birth from that is our conversation we're having now, because without that strike, the Bright Fame Shining podcast would have never come to light.
Right.
And it's something that matches my voice and my demeanor and my desire to talk about creativity and wellness and all in one. I've not given it the energy I should because life and
it's not should. It's going. It is what it is. It happens when it does.
It is. It will be what it should be when it should be.
Yeah.
But it would not have been sparked, and it would not have happened if it wasn't for that strike. So the first episode came out on my mother's birthday. 7/7, which is awesome. So big with the numbers in a way. So yeah, if it wasn't for all of that, I say that all to say for your listeners and your audience, trials are supposed to feel like trials.
Right. I think that in this world of kind of social media and the things that we sit back and observe, there's this belief, this fallacy that you just click a couple of selfies or pull out a camera and boom, it just happens. And that's just not the truth. Yeah. You have to work. You have to have discipline. You have to figure out how to strategize your life to support the things that you want to bring.
Yeah, you're built for expansion.
Absolutely.
You're built for expansion. And as much as I appreciate social media's ability to connect the dots and allow the messages of people to quickly reach and have reach, what are you doing with it though? Are you in any way, shape, or form creating an opportunity for a better life for yourself by presenting conversation, dialogue, imagery that makes life better for us? And this greatest, saddest invention in the history of our existence is a front-facing camera on your cell phone.
Really?
Yeah.
As said from a filmmaker, that's interesting.
Yeah, the front-facing camera. The one that looks at you. You selfies.
Okay.
When it was the other way, at least you capture the world. When you point it at yourself and it's flipped and reversed, it magnifies a falsehood in terms of even how you think you look.
Wow. Well, you can
add filters and it's even worse.
If you choose.
But even with no filters, we don't, no human being has a true understanding of what they truly look like. Because in every reflection in the mirror, you're opposite.
Right.
So you actually, your sensibility of what's your good side and this and the other and how you smile and all that, it's all false.
It's distorted, yeah.
So if you can't look inside while you're looking outside, you're in a lot of trouble. In a lot of trouble.
Do you know that we have a line of Shaping Freedom wellness products? Each are beautifully crafted and designed to support you in cherishing your mind, body, emotions, and soul. Carve out a sanctuary in your life with our Luxe sustainable yoga and meditation mats, essential oil candles, and more. Embrace self-care and reflection with every item, lovingly created to enhance your daily practice of spending time on you. Elevate your wellness journey with Shaping Sanctuary Collection because you deserve to feel balanced, nurtured, and inspired. Visit shapingsanctuary.com for more information.
So, you know, again, same thing. I wrote my own film. Can't wait to talk all about my own film. But the fact of doing Lennox's work made me see outside of myself and gave me so much more energy than my own film that I wrote that's filled up with characters that are all of me. The one person in it is my mom, and the other person is a part of me, and that other person is another part of me. And it's all me all over the place. And it's great. But the energy to produce it comes from like, will it be of service to someone else? In my film, I killed myself.
Okay.
And for art's sake, it's a story about a young painter who becomes paralyzed in an accident. And he spends the entire film wondering, living life from it being a cup half empty rather than half full. Still has his life. Still has his ability to think and be creative. But because his physicality has been cut in half by the accident, he can't get past this monster of a challenge in his mind that he can still function.
And that's such an analogy for the ways that we think about life.
Yeah. And I wrote it after my father had passed away. Because when my dad passed, I always tell people, my father passed, I became a man. And when my mother passed, I became a boy, child. And so in that window when my father passed, I wrote this whole script and this, that, and the other. And I was all excited. I'm going to make this movie against all odds. I'm going to make it happen. And I think this narcissism of it, I wrote it. It's about me. It's about characters that I made. There was something going on in the back of my head that was saying, you aren't worthy to make this thing.
When are we going to see this film, Robert?
Oh man, well, the hope is that it'll be the second film.
What are you doing right now?
Yeah,
what are you doing? When is this film? When are you going to actually produce this film?
I think that film will happen after Lennox.
Okay.
I think after The Last Champion is released, I will have garnered the respect in the industry from the success of the film and more my critical eye for telling story that will give the space for a film that has no famous person attached, the space to grow and be a part of the world. I honestly, I put it this way, films, unlike any other medium, and I say this to stand for the idea of going to the theater. You sit in the theater on a given day, on the right time, the right way, and someone in that film says a line like as if they've known you your whole life.
Right.
They're talking
Something
to you.
resonates.
Yes. They're talking to you right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that experience of being outside of your home, inside of a theater, in a communal experience with strangers, at a theater, where all are experiencing an aha moment at the same time. You will know this in your practices, in your studies about what it's like when a number of people are moving in fellowship at the same time, engaging the same philosophies, the strength that creates, the exponential wave factor that it creates. I pray God the film industry holds on to that dearly. It's what saved us from the loss that we lost when music became a streaming property. The movie industry did a great job of making the experience at theaters bigger.
Better, yes.
And better.
More comfortable, yeah.
And then
they had to bring home into the theater.
Correct.
In order to do that.
But then they lost themselves with the blockbuster films because
Right.
they thought the only way to do it is keep doing these same
Right.
films over and over. No. Create a great film experience and people will go to the theater because there's something they get there that they won't get in their living room. And I'm hoping to make films that really bring evidence that these types of films can not only generate revenue, character studies can generate revenue, but also can make for a better world. That's my great dream.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would love to see that film, by the way. And I'm going to nudge you.
Yes.
Every couple of months about that film because
next week
I believe
I'll send you the script so at least you can read it.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
That'd be amazing. I have 2 questions for you.
Certainly.
And then a comment.
Awesome.
Okay. Question number 1 is how can we support you?
I will answer it the same way I answered it at the Undisputed event.
Okay.
Talk.
Talk.
Tell the people that you know if anything that I've shared about the film, you can visit r7holdings.com, and you send me a message, I will send through the website. I will send you a private link that only studio execs are looking at to see the sizzle for the Lennox film.
Okay.
And share, talk to people, share. I don't want to say follow me on social media, but connect, share your thoughts, share your ideas, but tell people you know how much it means to you to be able to balance the world with positive message. And that you know a guy that's diligently living his life purpose to do that. And that some of the things he does, from large-scale public art activations to film work to the podcast on wellness and creativity, that there's someone out there like that. Tell your friends, tell everyone that you can. When I had my poetry show, I used to use that time you had to do mailers. You know, you can just send someone a message, you had to create a note. And I would create this wonderful mailer, and at the end it would say, "Let the word of mouth loose. Peace."
Oh, I like that.
And so I would ask you, let the word of mouth loose. Let us be found through the glory of your expression.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. My second question is, what advice do you have for a young man who is in a similar situation or a similar position to where you were, embarking on this journey of creativity? Like, maybe it's a way of asking the question, like, what would you say to young Robert?
Yeah, I would,
to the young Roberts that are out there now that are listening, because I will, just to load up my question, there are a lot of people who are hurting.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people of color who are hurting. There are a lot of people who are not of color hurting. It is a very challenging chapter, this chapter that we're living in world history right now.
Yeah.
And I think that, and people are reaching for and looking for inspiration and encouragement, because it's so easy to feel badly, to be upset. And I know you talked about keeping in action, and don't succumb to just thinking that laying there is going to change anything in your life. So you did add, you gave us some of that. And I'll just add like a very direct piece of advice.
You will find this in almost any self-help situation. Write your manifestation for your life down in all areas of your life: financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally. Write down the most magnificent version of your life you would like to see come to pass. Force yourself to listen to it every morning.
That's right.
Cell phone, pause. Communications about difficult things, pause. First thing in the morning, when you rise and you take your breath, drop in your headphones, sit in silence. If you're afraid of disturbing, maybe you live with your significant other, or this, no problem. Find the time before you connect and begin to talk to other people, to sit and listen to it. Make it a note in your phone. Swipe 2 fingers down, it'll audibly play.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. All these little tricks of technology.
Okay.
It'll audibly play what's written in the note.
Well, I have a question first before we move forward. Are you an Android or
I use
iPhone?
the iPhone.
Oh, right. So I just want to make sure it's iPhone, folks.
I've had Apple since the astronaut helmet looking blue.
Okay, we won't get into the whole Android, iPhone.
But either device can do it.
Okay.
But take the time out. Take a day. Take a Sunday. Go to the ocean if you can.
That's right.
Go to a park somewhere. If my handwriting looks like a doctor, I'm no doctor. I can't read my own handwriting back. It's terrible. So I type. Though I write in a journal just to get it out. I know I can't go back to it. So I type it, and then listen to it every day.
Yeah.
Then say to yourself, when you go to bed at night, what have I done that brings me closer to making this impossible thing that I've written down possible? And if you go to bed every day knowing that you've done at least one thing that's driven you in the right direction, you may be in a good space. Now, let's talk practically now. Build your support system.
Yes.
It might come through friends. It might come through going through a Shaping Freedom program. It might come through your parents. It might come through a brother or sister, but you may be like myself, where you have no family. your parents have passed away, you're a foreigner living in a foreign land, and you spend many, many of your days alone.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to God. And whatever variation of how that shows up in your life, whether you think God is just talking to yourself, whatever it may be, talk to God. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm single. So I was out and about and one day, and I met some young lady. And me trying to be very active and not a recluse or, let me play games. I message, I text, I get back. She doesn't really get back to me in a timely fashion. And I'm sitting there wriggling in my head. I'm just giving an example of one story. Like, am I worthy? This, that, and the other. I take care of myself. What's the problem? And then I went back to, oh my God. I asked God for something very simple. I'll be very honest. I'll share it with you that no one else knows. I asked for stability and security every day, every morning. Stability and security. And then I had to write myself a note. Is it possible that this person that I don't know could cause instability and insecurity in my life, and I just don't know it?
Yeah.
First, write down what you desire. Then, 7:7, Matthew, ask God for it. Seek, ask, knock.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when you don't get what you want, instead of beating yourself up,
trust.
Present the possibility that maybe the things that are happening the way they're happening in your life are because they are in alignment with what you asked for.
Absolutely.
And you're not exactly clear how it'll show up.
Absolutely. Because that's the part of it.
Yeah.
That's the part of it, is the breath and the faith and the trust.
That's it. And
it doesn't always look the way you think it's going to look. Yeah.
No. It's the great story I'll say, and I'll keep it short, is they always talk about staring at the grass where you planted the seed, waiting for the plant to grow and blossom. Emotional intelligence courses and many spiritual ones tell you this all the time, that you're sitting there looking, and you're like, it's never going, maybe something happened, it's never going to come out. And the day you walk away is the day the bud breaks through the ground.
Right.
You never know how close to the surface the manifestation of your dreams are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you'll never know if you walk away.
Absolutely. And I think you also, there's a lot that you said there that is amazing and so helpful. And having a vision, I think, is one of the most important things that a person can do. We walk around saying we want to be happy or we want to feel better, whatever those things are. But if you can't paint the picture, the chances of you getting there are much slimmer.
Yeah.
You have to be able to paint the picture, and it takes time, and it takes time with yourself to be able to truly paint the picture of what you really want.
Yeah. Concisely, if you can't take the time to write down exactly what you want in your life, just know it cannot be achieved from writing it down. It takes work.
That's right.
So if you can't put aside the work just to write it down, to think it through and write down, if I could have anything, not just a car or a thing, but a way of feeling, a way of moving through the world.
A scene. It's a whole thing.
If you can't create, I know what my last day looks like. I'm sitting under a palm tree, looking up at the palm tree, and in front of me, I can see children running back and forth. I have no children, but I know they're my grandchildren. So something's going to happen.
Something's happening.
And there's a house to the right of me that I know I own. And the whole thing is open to side to the kitchen. I could smell oxtail cooking out of the kitchen. And there's a pencil and a pen and a notebook and a camera beside me. And I look up and I take my last breath and I'm gone. What am I doing that doesn't lead to that?
Right.
Needs to be cut out.
Right.
So I say this for you and your listeners. You can't find the wherewithal to write down your dream life. Whatever you're suffering through, expect it to continue.
Right. Yeah.
Free yourself. Take that one step.
That's right.
Put it in your phone.
That's right.
Listen to it every day. Some days I go to listen to mine and it's annoying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to hear this.
I don't want to hear this.
Right,
I want to hear this voice. Yeah.
I can't. It's not happening. And then, nope. I make myself listen anyways. And here we are.
And
I
here
am
we
sitting
are.
down with a person who I can't find the picture, but a person who I respect not only for what she's done, but your family lineage, the way your father moved, the way your mother moved, the way your sisters moved, the way your brother has moved through the world. None of this happens without writing down my vision for my life.
Absolutely.
So I'm grateful in that space always for that opportunity to keep doing that and seeing how it shows up.
Robert, thank you so much for spending this hour with me and with this audience. I appreciate it so much. And I will just add, in answer to the question that you asked your friends, like, what do they see? What I see is a human being who is brave and courageous and who operates from both your heart and the analytics of your mind, and who is generous in his giving and in his creativity and in his expression of what it is that God has put in your soul. And I just want to thank you. And I want to thank you on behalf of all the people who are going to see both of these amazing films in the future. And on behalf of the folks who are going to see the very film that you believe is not the one, that's going to be the one. Okay. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for coming by. And I look forward to continuing to talk.
It means more to me than you could ever know.
Okay.
Ashe.
Until next time. What a conversation. I really enjoyed connecting with Robert and hearing all of his eloquent and profound sentiments and perspectives about the world and life of a creative. I hope that you got something out of it too. I'm sure that you did. For more on Robert, be sure to tune in to his bright, famed, shining podcast. Like it, subscribe to it, leave some comments. He would love to hear it. Stay tuned to this movie that he's working on about the undisputed heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Lennox Lewis. Follow that film as well. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself. Be sure to connect to who you are, to your purpose, to your passions. We want to hear it. So take care of yourself so that we can see more of you. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your experiences with the Shaping Freedom with Lisane Basquiat podcast. I really appreciate you listening.